Hello. Oh, shit. Hello. If you're hearing this, it means the woke mob has gone to my location and has captured me in one of their many facilities ranging around Portland, Oregon. The reason for this outcome is simple. I've released information about a great indie visual novel. We currently live in a world surrounded by shitty games being released, outshining the actual good content. Being a dick has taken over our system, and when I mean system, I mean the visual novel tab on Steam. That's besides the point. Visual novels are dying, both the community and the genre. No one wants to make visual novels, with the only one really gaining attention from the mass media being Persona and Ace Attorney. But for Mother Matron is different. It completely outshines the rest, with amazing world building, similar to going to the edge of the map in Elden Ring and finding a cave with only a maze to get to a chest, inside it being a piece of foreskin, only to read the item description and learn it belonged to Radon before his battle with Melania. That level of storytelling is something I yearn for. Characters getting development throughout the game, side characters' importance to the situation the main cast is currently in, the absolute horror the game puts us in, constantly thinking something is leaking around the corner. The game is currently sitting at 115 reviews on Steam. Yes, I understand reviews don't equal downloads, but comparing it to Elden Ring, which won Game of the Year, sits at 500k all-time reviews. Along with the game being released on all consoles, not just Steam, puts into perspective how little the game is. I planned on making this video for a while now, actually since November 3rd, 2022. It's been sitting in the back of my mind, having me constantly think about it, wanting to have a complete playthrough and truly understand the world it takes us in. Let me tell you, this did not disappoint. In some moments I was completely shitting my pants, while other moments it was making me feel depressed, almost like I was in the same situation as the characters were. So I'm going to try and break out of here. I'll give more information to what the woke mob's actual plans are soon, so I'll just roll to the disclaimer page for now.
Alright, I'm not out, but I found a better microphone. Your consciousness swirls in an inky black river of nothing.
Wake up.
This is not your first time here, and every time you wake up, you don't remember the simple things, like who are you and why are you here, but you understand you're alive and breathing. The noise of the background starts getting to you, both in-game and in real life. The sound does not stop and goes on forever. You notice the pain in your arm, a shelf crushing it. Being able to recall what happened seems painful, mentioning it being as painful as a series of tunnels, a place where you lost everything and many others as well, but you can't forget. Reaching back into your memory, you grasp a mental object. You wake up to a man screaming your name.
Wake up!
The girl in question that was calling you is named Lizzie. Lizzie is still trying to figure out the things that happened to her, so she asks the old man what's going on. He says that he's her boss and she fell asleep at work, mentioning that we're in pack rat, which will get brought up back in a couple of minutes. She assumes her job is sewing because of the materials around her, but he basically tells her to go home for a couple days and get some rest and stop by Spruce's office, the local doctor. Before she heads out, her workspace morphs into a weird Doom-like scene before returning to normal.
Lizzie! Go!
To keep everyone up to speed if this wasn't clear enough, Lizzie went back in time through her memories to understand why she is in the situation she's in. She can't remember much about herself, but is slowly regaining her memory by traversing events that happened before. Also, she is aware that there is a second party member going on this journey with her, which is us if you didn't know. Now for her to understand that she's in a video game is probably out of the question, but more so retelling the story with a new audience like a showman. Everything gets brought back to Monica, and that's the reason why I can't escape her. If you still have no clue on what I just said, you will soon, but think of Monica in the meantime. Anyways, leaving her workplace, she doesn't remember much about Spruce's office or where her house is. Opening up her backpack, we luckily find a notebook with a map inside of it. Now the map is pretty important, but only gets brought up once. I'll keep bringing up the map anytime it's necessary, but take a good look at it. The place where this all takes place is called the boarding, enclosed in a wall made from scrap metal to block off the outside world. No one has seen past the wall because it's trapped by that fog that conceals what's outside. Anyone that has tried to explore the mists have never returned. The section where Lizzie works is called Pack Rat, named after the high density of workshops and storage units there. so full that it's hard to walk and swarmed with a system of rats that live in the sewer. The shipyard and forecourt are the only other important places right now, being where Lizzie's house is and Spruce's office. Lizzie then finds a picture of Mother Matron in her backpack. May your springs grow like the calluses on working hands, or on the soles of your feet, resembling Mother Mary with a comforting look and almost saying,
"It's gonna be okay."
The identity of Mother Matron is a mystery. As we know of right now, she's the leader of the boarding and nothing else. She also calls all the citizens her children and preaches how much she cares about them, which will get brought back up later, but Lizzie gets interrupted by a swarm of rats running under the tunnels. The boarding has a network of tunnels that run through the area to keep funnel of the endless swarm of rats. Arriving at Spruce's, Lizzie talks about her being the resident healer of the boarding.
Ah, Lizzie. Been a while. Those are some dark bags under your eyes. Working long hours? Not sleeping lately?
She brings Lizzie over to her office, and Spruce says that there is nothing wrong with her physically, but asks what's going on recently. Lizzie brings up that she has been seeing things like the world shifting. Like right in front of my eyes, it turns into something horrible. Horrible sounds, flesh growing out where it shouldn't be, things that aren't really there. We caught a glimpse of what she was talking about back at her work. Spruce talks about how this isn't the first time she's heard of this, and we get introduced to what they called mumblers and the crepuscule. Mumblers are basically people that have gone insane, a complete detachment from reality, and stuck in an infinite nightmare that never ends. All they do is ramble about the nightmare that they saw in the crepuscule. And the crepuscule gets brought up back in a minute, the place where Mother Matron sends you down, and you have a bunch of monsters in shade and usually just die. But Spruce recently has come across information that mumblerism doesn't necessarily begin if you enter the crepuscule. It can happen to anyone just living in the boarding. Spruce had to keep it a secret because mumblers often don't get taken care of and left to die. If this information would to be released to the public, it would cause an uproar.
Contrary to what people think, the crepuscule isn't the only place where mumblers are made. Not anymore, at least.
These are the few cases that Spruce has seen. She mentions that if the AC gang is dealing with any, they aren't going to share any information. Spruce is only telling Lizzie because she is showing signs of symptoms of mumblerism, but most likely hallucinations from lack of sleep. While Spruce gets Lizzie her medication, she asks if she can go feed the mumblers out back. Walking towards the back of Spruce's territory, we see an old shack with loud whispers coming from the inside. The shack is filled to the brim with mumblers, packed like dogs, sitting in their beds, mumbling to themselves about the experiences down in the crepuscule. Lizzie is scared of the mumblers, but wants to show sympathy because if she was in a similar situation as them, she would still want to be treated like a human.
Have you ever heard the song of the girl?
Floor along with the egg whites. It wasn't Timmy's fault. It wasn't Timmy's fault. I swear to God, it wasn't his fault.
Arriving at Lizzie's house, where we see is completely worn down, the walls are severely damaged along with the furniture. The only thing sticking out is the same Mother Matron photo that we saw during her dialogue a couple minutes ago. Living in the boarding, as we see, is not easy, and Lizzie has a nice house to put that into perspective. Before going to sleep, she sees a letter placed in the center of her bed, a wax seal with the Mother Matron logo on it. Heart sinking, she picks up the letter, hoping it's an illusion. The letter, a legend among the kids in the boarding, the worst piece of paper you could ever own in your life. Undoing the seal and removing the letter, the piece of paper says,
My dear child, the very thought of you warms me so. Seeing you and your siblings grow throughout the years is always my special delight. I give so much of myself every day to ensure you all remain safe and secure inside these walls. Alas, I cannot do everything my own. Every so often, I must rely on my children's support to do what must be done for the collective good, even if it means sending my darlings into the jaws of danger. This letter is to inform you that you have been personally selected to become my surveyor. This is the title of great honor, bestowed upon those who will brave the depths of the crepuscule for your Mother Matron's pride, as well as the continued survival for the boarding. You will be paired with 2 boys named Pucks and Rich. As soon as you receive this letter, you are to meet with them, make preparations for your journey below, and visit me at my dwelling in Mother's Tower. I will see you soon, my dear. With all the love in the world, your Mother Matron.
Lizzie, after reading this letter about her being sent down to the hordes of the Crepuscule, collapses on the floor. Awakening back to the doctor's office at the start of the game, Lizzie assumes that is the end of her memories, dying from shock after getting the letter. A visual appears before us, looking exactly like Lizzie, but without her face and a hue of red all over her body. The dialogue is a mixture between a girl and a gritty monster voice, talking about the story of the girl with the sweater.
Did you ever hear the story about the girl in the sweater? No. Of course not. It's still being written. I hear it gets downright grisly. I'm so excited.
The monster, or whatever you want to call it, appears quite a few times, so I'm gonna call her Red Lizzie. We never actually know exactly what Red Lizzie is, so I'm just gonna assume it's another part of her that is being written to appear as the opposite conscious of her, assuming after the incident that happened that caused her to rerun through her memories.
Everything and anything were nothing once. Then they became something. I think things would have been better if they stayed as nothing. The disease called existing is widespread and cancerous. Extremely virulent. It infected everything that was nothing and forced it to deal with the pain of being.
Lizzie did not enjoy the 4chan incel speech and asked us for some reason, what is she talking about? Red Lizzie just decides to fade out, and we awaken back at Lizzie's place. Lizzie, staring at the picture of Mother Matron, starts to doubt the Mother Matron herself. The Mother Matron, out of every person here that could have ever been selected, she ends up picking me. We learn that Lizzie is a big fan of Mother Matron, idolizing her since she was a child, reading her books, and looking up to her since she was the only one to really look up to. Lizzie knows that she can't run away from this, and we need to find Pucks and Rich, the other members of our squad, to explore the Crepuscule. We walk over to Lizzie's neighbor sisters, Janine and Katie. Pretty sure these are Lizzie's only friends on the boarding, which is kind of sad, but that also means that they would give us the information on the Crepuscule and how to find Pucks and Rich. We don't know much about them, besides Katie is obviously a happy and cheerful person, where Janine is goth mommy. They told Lizzie that they already knew that she was a recruiter because they saw the delivery man that gives them out.
Surprise, the mailboy doesn't want to visit the shit zone.
Lizzie explains that where she lives, the shipyard, is actually called the Shityard, named after that because it is where majority of the sewage and waste get discarded. It constantly smells like shit, and if you stay there for 3 days, all your items will also smell like shit. Lizzie only calls it the shipyard because cursing makes her feel bad, and this gets brought up a lot when we get into the dangerous situations later. The developer loves mentioning it in every dangerous situation, but Janine is very upfront, and that's kind of her whole personality, besides wearing the strap. When she says it was nice knowing you, she means it. Most surveyors don't come back, and those who end up usually just become mumblers, as we've heard they are basically brain dead. We get to ask Janine and Katie some questions to help us gather information for our journey. There are a couple of them, so I'm just going to go over them pretty quickly. Janine had a phase where she read a bunch of books about people who knew about the surveyors before they left, just in case she ever got picked. Her advice is to be ready for anything. The Crepuscule is very unknown, so you have to prepare for the unexpected. No one really knows what's down inside the Crepuscule, besides it's very dangerous, and the Mother Matron doesn't like talking about it.
The most anyone seems to know is that it's like an endless series of tunnels with dangerous creatures inside. Some people say the Crepuscule is constantly shifting and morphing, almost as if it's alive.
This is the only one we actually have no clues on, besides hearing previously that she is the leader of the boarding. Mother is treated like a god in the boarding. Although she is worshipped, we know nothing about her. Katie tells us go down to the supermarket and ask Meaty Marissa. She's weird and her meat is foul, but she knows a lot about what's going on inside the boarding. What are you reading, Katie? I now present Anime High School with Brody. Alright, class, settle down. Hey, asshole, sit down! Alright, today we will be learning about theogony in the context of an extremely popular and finished visual novel called For Mother Matron. Lizzie leans over to look at what Katie is reading. We see a page of Theogony, a poem written by Hesiod. The purpose of this poem is to explain the origins of the Greek gods. Written in 700 BC, the specific page we see is about Nyx and her children. Nyx is a primordial Greek goddess of night and the wife of Erebos, the god of darkness. both birthed by Chaos, the first entity in the universe, and has the abilities to basically generate primordial deities out of nothing.
Does this mean they're related?
Yes, but it doesn't matter. What makes Nyx so terrifying, though, is her literally birthing death and fate, along with many others we see on this page. She is so terrifying that Zeus, king of the gods, is scared of her. Sorry to turn this into a power scaling TikTok, but basically she gave birth to everything and is really fucking strong. Don't hold me to anything I've said either, there are many different translations, and I googled everything.
Doesn't this mean you're a fraud?
Why is this computer program in my fucking class? Anyways, this all comes back, so don't forget it. The market, a new place on the map we haven't been to yet, is crowded with lots of people buying supplies from the locals. Trying to find meat and Marissa would think it to be a challenge.
Fresh meat! Fresh meat! Come and get your fresh meat!
Meet and Marissa is a saleswoman. Most of our conversation with her is trying to get us to buy a cut of meat. This is where the game starts to change depending on your options. Throughout the game at this point, we will have to pick different types of answers for scenarios the game has to offer. Some of the scenarios will be a timer that appears. The penalty of running out can vary depending on the situation. Sometimes it can result in an instant death, or Lizzie having to rely on her gut and might make choices that you didn't want to happen. The time limit is also very short, like 3 seconds short, meaning that you won't be able to read most of the available options. These choices sometimes can alter the game's course, so you have to be quick. We asked Meet and Marissa for some information on the surveyor's partners. Meet and Marissa doesn't know much about Pucks. On the other hand, Rich is a friend of hers. I use the word friend lightly because she is weirdly in love with him.
I like him though, he's such a soft guy.
Rich lives in Western Forgot, in one of those bunkhouses. The AC gang's been more active there recently, while also encroaching on Spruce's territory, so we will have to be careful. But what is the AC gang? They never really go into deep on what the AC gang exactly is. They're used for more of a world-building organization than anything. Back when we were at Spruce's, she would bring up the AC gang and her low-key hinting at them experimenting on the Mumblers.
And if the AC gang's been dealing with any, they sure aren't sharing.
Meet and Marissa says some shit went down near the Friend Shed, and the beast didn't prove itself to be real. Looking back on the map, we see the Friend Shed in Nobai, the original location of the market before the Threes company moved everything. The Friend Shed is kind of a local legend. It goes back to this lonely kid that used to hang out near the Friend Shed. The shed was locked up, and no one has ever been inside of it. But one day, a kid heard a voice coming from it, something alive that wanted a friend to talk to. The kid finally found a friend, playing and laughing with the thing in the shed. The kid would get picked on for people thinking he was just talking to himself. Any attempt for the kid to prove there's someone in there, the voice would go silent. One day, the shed unlocked, and no one heard from him again. Lizzie personally thinks that the kid himself was real, but the AC gang simply killed him when they were trying to rob him. The body has been hidden, and since he had no real friends, no one looked for him, so his fate became a legend here in the boarding. A couple of dudes out on patrol ended up getting killed. The AC gang thinks it's the killer hiding out in Forgot. Weirdly, Spruce gave them permission to search around the limited areas, and we find out that Spruce is technically the unofficial mayor of Forgot because she is backed up by the peacekeeping institution called the Four Leaf Clovers. The AC gang obviously isn't with the whole peacekeeping thing, as they sell drugs and occasionally the armed robbery. The AC gang doesn't like the fact that someone got away picking off a couple of their boys, so they're trying to keep it under wraps, making us question where Meet and Marissa was able to get this information in the first place. We had her on the map point out to a place where the bunkhouses are. Only information we get regarding Pucks is he lives in the junks, a place where garbage falls from the sky. Literally, it is not known what causes the falling of random objects in junks, but is regarded as a dangerous place because so. We say goodbye to Meet and Marissa and we head off to Forgot. But why is it called Forgot? Well, because you asked, it goes back to when the originals were trying to figure out how to make the boarding a livable place. The buildings and such were already here. People just found them where they were, but it apparently was more of a mess than it is now. Forgot was established by Saren Butcher Hopkins, who was a friend of Possum Brady, the founder of Junks. The two of them basically smoked crack and went on a rampage. The crack in question is called canned heat, a popular drug that side effects are supposed to cause near invincibility. Mainly sold through the AC gang, but people started to make their own for cheaper. Anyways, Butcher and Junks huffed some canned heat, and Porcelain Pug fell on the top of her head. She ended up surviving, but had terrible memory loss. So when the originals got together to come up with their names for the districts, she says, "I forgot, I don't really care," which turned into Forgot. It is kind of stupid, but I think these dumb stories Lizzie goes off on is good world building, especially now that we know that the originals were a bunch of crazy drug addicts. This brings up some questions on who the originals were. assuming they were brought together by Mother Matron to clean up the boarding, but the intentions were never made clear, especially considering the boarding is still not a livable place. The bunkhouses. Now we arrive at the bunkhouses. Considering this is my favorite part of the game, I'm going to have a bit of an introduction for it. The bunkhouses are a maze of houses and buildings connected together to give the audience a confusing and sickening experience. Throughout our time at the bunkhouses, we find clues along the way that show different events of what happened in the past. The clues are found on the ground, highlighted as objects Lizzie is not able to stay away from. Before we know it, she picks up the objects, which reveals a flashback about the same person and her story on why she ended up in the boarding. The stories are not linear and not forcefully presented. Some stories are found in different paths along the maze and might take another playthrough if you did not fully explore the maze the first time around. We start off in a corridor that opens up into a hallway. The walls are torn, which emphasizes that this place should not be livable. But we get our first set of options. Taking a right, we enter a room emitting sunlight with a bunch of graffiti. Going back to the objects we find on the ground, the first one is a razor blade. Lizzie gravitates to it, giving us our first flashback. We're taken to a bathroom inside a house party. We meet a woman with a razor blade crushing up tablets to snort. She snorts a powder. Nothing. Again, nothing. More, nothing. Finally, the high kicks in. No longer in a filthy bathroom on the wrong side of town, but flying. She passes Icarus, and then the sun. She waves at the angels at heaven's door. They are welcoming her, embracing her. With the drug in her system, the party is back on. The music is thumping louder and louder. She can feel the bass in her whole body. She falls to the floor, jittering like a roach after spraying bug killer on it. Someone is banging at the door. Back to the corridor again. Going straight, we head down a rocky tunnel. We could see nothing on either side besides the feeling that someone is watching us. Ending up in the new room with dimly lit lights, we see another Mother Matron symbol next to the door. Inside the door is a dimly lit light bulb with a pile of flesh soaking into the concrete. Before forcing us back into the corridor, we see a transparent man. The man is hard to make out since we don't really get much time to analyze what he is. A pixel before the game forces us out, his mouth turns into a sinister smile. It's not really known who this guy is, and it's never really explained. He could be a corpse from the Crepuscule, but if so, how did his soul end up here? This makes us wonder on what the bunkhouses actually are, and if they are connected to the Crepuscule. Our only option now is to take a left. We enter a big space. Looking around on the ground, we see a stethoscope, which triggers another flashback. This time, we arrive at the doctor's office, similar to the one at the start of the game, besides this one having a big Mother Matron symbol, meaning that this is set in the boarding under Mother Matron's control, meaning the woman is no longer outside the boarding. Through the third-party dialogue, we found out that the woman's name is Loretta. She's a struggling drug addict that knows her life is worthless, calling herself a disposable piece of tissue because she will do anything for that one last hit. Loretta ultimately wants to die. At this moment, she starts thinking about how she wants to retreat into the world where she never existed, where the people's lives she's fucked over live happy ones. She knows what she is doing is hurting herself and others, but she also knows that she's addicted and can't stop this thinking, resulting in her wanting to die so others can move on. The doctor walks in, Loretta asking what is wrong with her.
So, what's wrong with me, Doc? Sheena's been saying it's just withdrawal, but this doesn't feel like it. I'm worried it's something worse.
A woman named Sheena has been saying that it's just withdrawals, but it feels like something worse. We learn that she is not in the hospital for an overdose that happened last flashback, and also learn that she is trying to quit drugs. The doctor explains that it has nothing to do with drugs, but she is pregnant.
I'm not sure how to tell you this, Loretta, but you're pregnant.
What?
Loretta starts dismissing this. With all the emotions going on in her mind, she rethinks herself. The drug addict is going to have to take care of a baby when she can't even take care of herself. Finding out she is pregnant, to her, she's never felt more alone. The sequence of events is very important to her character. A drug addict that wants to make a change but can't, defeated by the drug and wants to kill herself. Now finding out that she has a baby, with all the people's lives she's hurt, by hurting her own mother, now she has to take care of a child when she's already admitted defeat. This piece of dialogue pops up when the news gets broken to her, going over previous thoughts she's had, only thinking about getting high. I don't care if it kills me. It's one less shitty person in the world. It's the only thing that helps me anymore. Leave me alone. I'll do whatever you want. I need it. Please. It's my life to ruin, not yours. This dialogue is her begging for the drug to another person. Now, I don't want to assume this because it is a very sensitive topic and not really hinted at, but I'll do whatever you want could mean that she had sex with the person to get the high and resulted in her getting pregnant. But then again, I'm probably overthinking it and it has nothing to do with that and is entirely making me look bad. Advancing into the other room, we see an attempted jump scare of a skeleton of whatever the fuck. But there was a note on it that reads, "I haven't eaten in weeks, my stomach hurts a lot. I found a dead rat. Probably scurried away from the butcher. Clawed at the walls till it died hungry. Itchy, scratchy. No one found it in the dark except for the flies. And me. The flies ate and ate and ate and fucked and ate and laid eggs all inside the guts. Dead and rotting. Its eyes melted out of the head. Lots of eggs. Yummy eggs. Dotting its skin like grains of rice. I ate it. My tummy stopped hurting. I feel alive again. But now my stomach is going buzzy. Going to the light outside the room, we find a brochure for what Mother Matron has found. Society for Innate Relief. Learn to live with yourself again. Funded by the Wadey Foundation. This is what we need to confirm that there is an outside society. And Loretta could be someone that moved here due to wanting to live with yourself again. We'll get back to this in a second. But the originals were ordered by Mother Matron to create a place so that the people would go and live in that society. Either way, this also brings up more confusion on who the Wadey Foundation is. Meaning that Mother Matron simply didn't create this place herself and task others to help her, but had an entire foundation to back her up. This also possesses more confusion due to the originals just finding this place. What society was here before, and was Mother Matron also running the society, but something happened which caused the buildings to look run down and almost destroyed? Either way, this triggers another story about my favorite bitch, Loretta. Sitting down in a hallway that could be an office building or a hospital, the radio reminds her of music from her party when she OD'd, wishing the party never stopped. Loretta during this time is sober and is trying to better herself, but wishing she was still on the drug. A young blonde woman wearing a sweater sits down next to Loretta.
So, what are you here for? That's okay. You don't have to tell me. Meth.
Huh?
That's what I'm here to kick. Wasn't my idea, but my folks got worried about me. What? Expecting someone more ghoulish?
No, it's not that.
I'm just teasing you.
Oxy. My mom dropped me off here.
I see. That's rough. A cousin of mine died from that stuff. What's your name?
Loretta.
I'm Sheena. Nice to meet you.
We do not know much about Sheena, besides she is on meth, and Loretta's drug of choice is Oxy. Sheena was someone that was mentioned previously when Loretta was taken to the doctor's office, and Sheena was just saying that she was withdrawing. But so far we know that Loretta is a woman addicted to Oxy who OD'd at a party and decided to go to the Wadey Foundation to get off the drug for her mother's sake. Her ending up at the boarding and getting pregnant with a child. As for the father, it never gets brought up, so my theory is the most accurate. If you got the reason why we're down here is for Rich. We head down a staircase, reaching a double set of doors with the bathroom closest to us. As entering the bathroom, we see a ripped off nail on the floor, which triggers our final and most brutal flashback yet. Sheena, locked in the bathroom, sitting alone for days with no food or water, wearing torn clothes that rips the humanity away from her. There is blood on the floor from her pounding at the doors for hours, dripping at her feet, her nails chipped and bleeding with one torn off already.
Fuck off with the self-help bullshit! None of it helps! I can't even feel anything anymore! It's all just... It feels like static. Just noise! All the time! You don't fucking get it! It's not like you really care about me anyways. Let me out! Let me out! Let me out! I need to get gas so fucking bad, man! I can't take this anymore! Please! Let me out of here! It all hurts. It all hurts. Why is it so cold here? Are you trying to freeze me to death? Is that what you want, you freaks? I just want to go home.
She resorts to cannibalizing herself to survive. The blood dripping off her fingers looks like a cherry sauce on a sundae. Right before she bites down on her finger, a man opens the door. I can get what you need, but you're gonna have to help me with something first. Take this and come with me. He hands Sheena a rusty knife. The look in his eyes are scarier than death himself. The man starts walking away, with Sheena following shortly after. The cause of events are not clearly let out to us. We do not know what happened and how it was related to Loretta. I do not believe the story would end Sheena's story right here. As for the fly-eating note, it is unclear that it is Sheena or Loretta, as it could be either one. My conspiracy for Sheena being locked up in the first place is she did not likely stay sober, as she was wanting glass, which is the term for crystal meth. Another thing left unclear is who was it that came for her. My idea is that she is working for someone or got dug deep into a situation with the Wadey Foundation. But as things become more unclear with the final flashbacks, our story of Loretta and Sheena come to a close.
They not like us. They not like us. They not like us.
Oh yeah, we still have to find Rich. Us going to the next door, we find...
Yeah, I'm here.
Finally, after our run through the back rooms, we meet Rich. A kind-hearted and innocent child that only wants to have friends. Rich, assuming first that we were here to either beat him up or take his stuff, shows that he usually is taken advantage from. She mentions that he is her partner to explore the crepuscule and that they need to find the other guy, Pucks. Heading to the market, we get some food and hopefully find clues regarding Pucks' location. Finally out of the bunker houses and halfway done with the game, while eating at Lizzie's favorite rat place, they hear a loud buzzing coming from above their head. It's a drone. Rich is interested, thinking it's a bird, and decides to run after it. We're driven to the junks, the place where garbage falls from the sky as we said earlier. Lizzie takes a break after chasing the drone for a while. When Rich still goes after it, standing in a pile of trash, we find a fucking cup? I fucking lied, baby, she's back! Take it to a balcony where Loretta and Sheena are talking about Loretta's pregnancy announcement over a cup of coffee.
You're pregnant?
Loretta's eyes are described as panic and red from the hours of crying. Sheena does God's work and asks who the fucking father is.
I might know who, but we'd have to test to see. He's gone, anyway.
What about your mom?
The bittersweet memories flood through her head. Was it just before the party? Why did the party have to stop? Was it that time when she was in a dark oblivion of unconsciousness that nearly swallowed her life? Pretty sure she's talking about the party when she OD'd, but her thoughts don't go any deeper than that. Sheena then asks about her mother and her relationship with Loretta. I can't bear to see you like this. You're killing yourself. What would your father think? You have to wake up eventually. Please, stop this. Please. You look terrible. I wish I had my baby girl back. Loretta knows her mother is hurt, and because of this pain she has put on her, she doesn't want anyone else to know about the baby.
I've put her through enough as it is. I've been dead inside for the past God knows how long at this point. Living pill to pill. I could see the look in her eyes. It killed her inside. Every time. No. I've decided. I'm on my own with this one.
Are you going to keep it?
Catching up with Rich, they meet outside a wrecked house. The drone leads them inside where we meet our final member, Pucks. Pucks, in the nicest way speaking, is an asshole. But as much of an asshole as he is also a genius who was able to put a drone together using scraps from the junks, unlike Rich, who just now figured out the drone doesn't look like a bird. Before leaving, Pucks grabs his tools together, and they head to Mother Matron's monolith. The sky around the monolith is wrong. The clouds are congealed into a jelly that wants to slither inside the tower, wanting to swallow everything inside. The lobby is no different from any other house we've seen thus far. For being such a figure in the boarding, Mother Matron's monolith isn't anything grand. Pucks notices the intercom on the side of the wall. A demonic voice announces telling them to go to the 12th floor. Their interactions in this moment show that they are entirely different people, but have one thing in common: the fear of Mother Matron and the crepuscule. The 12th floor is a long hallway of uneven walls with a big door and a foggy glass at the end. Lizzie previously stated that she is a big fan of Mother Matron, acting almost as a mother figure to her. She expressed that she is finally able to see the paragon of kindness that she knew as a caretaker of the boarding. But she's scared. Everything in her body is afire, screaming to turn away and run. Door is locked. Big black shadow appears behind the glass. Asking if it's Mother Matron is met with no response. A warm and tender voice appears through a disc on the ceiling.
Yes, my darlings. Your Mother Matron is here. You are all ready to do what I ask of you, yes?
Pucks immediately shows backlash to her, triggering the same response as someone who has much more value than you. Lizzie asks if Mother Matron will come out to see them, finding out that she is sick and keeping it a secret to prevent the public from panicking. She's not able to meet us face to face.
No, my children. I am unable to leave this chamber. I have kept this a secret so as to prevent panic, but your Mother Matron is very sick.
Puck shows hostility towards her. If she is sending them to their deaths, why can't she come out and see them face to face? Mother Matron's responses are getting more aggravated, but we learn his name is Puxatawny, which I learned is a town in Pennsylvania that has the annual Groundhog Day celebration. On a more serious note, because she is sick, she can't carry out the grand mission of the collective, which is why we are here. The grand mission spoke about is to seek the Room of Paradise. Life in the boarding is difficult. Mother Matron has tried her hardest to make it a decent place to live, but only so much can be done. The Womb of Paradise is a place of peace and love, simulating heaven essentially. The surveyor's job is to go deep into the crepuscule and find the Womb of Paradise. Pucks this time cuts off Mother Matron. How will we know what it looks like, and what are we supposed to do when we find it? Mother Matron doesn't give an exact explanation of what it looks like besides it's warm and inviting. Once it is found, they must return to the boarding so that they can guide everyone else to the Womb of Paradise. Rich asks why they have not heard of this grand mission before. He also calls her Mommy. She doesn't explain why we've never heard of it before, besides the crepuscule is dangerous, but this also brings up the question, how long has she been sick? The surveyor's job has been around for a long time, exploring the crepuscule and learning the horrors of what's down there, so something doesn't really make sense. There are also books in the library that discuss the crepuscule. Lizzie asks if there's any way to help defend ourselves down there. Near the shaft is a locker room filled with weapons, along with supplies to increase their survival. Mother Matron starts coughing abruptly, leaving the question on why were they specifically picked a mystery.
I must rest now, my dears. Please hurry. I do not know how much longer I have left for this world. I must bring you to paradise before I depart this mortal coil. Be vigilant. I love you.
A lot of things aren't adding up so far. First, she won't leave the room to address us and talks over an intercom placed above them. Second, we learn that she is sick. And the final I love you is very deformed, almost like it was a voice changer. It's clear that Pucks has something against Mother Matron as well, besides just sending them down to the crepuscule. Walking their way to the locker room and picking up them some weapons, asking if everyone's ready, we head past the shower room to a room that's empty besides an old hatch. The mood has turned cold. We hear Rich's teeth chatter behind us. We open the hatchet and finally enter the crepuscule. The crepuscule, something that we've heard for some time now, resulting going deep into the crepuscule is guaranteed death, or on the off chance you're actually able to escape, is permanent mental disabilities called mumbralism. We start off in a dimly lit tunnel. It's unusually cold here, both to the skin and soul. Even if you were blind to the decrepit appearance of the tunnel, the cold will tell you that this place is where happiness has never been. Lizzie, Pucks, and Rich adventure deep into the cave, illuminated with only lonely light bulbs that for some reason haven't burnt out yet. Pucks brings up the idea that they are currently in a mine, but why would the mine be in the crepuscule where no one lives? While joking around, Rich finds a book resting on a stool. Lizzie decides to take a look at it. Most of the pages are destroyed or illegible, flipping through the pages until they find something somewhat readable. Lizzie reads the sections aloud, saying, "I love how it feels inside of me. I love the feeling of it, crawling around in my guts. The razors on the fingers scrape the walls and it hurts, and I bleed, but I feel beautiful. The feeling of life inside, feeding of my insides, everything about me keeps me alive. I will protect it with my life, even though it hurts. I will kill if I have to kill. I will pillage if I have to pillage. When I rest as dust, to be blown off the top of the old shelf, scattering into air as grain. Remember not as how I stood, but for the things that grew inside me. I cannot wait for it to hatch and crawl out from between my legs. It's kicking." Kind of a weird theory, but this could be Loretta and she's talking about the baby she's having. But her being in the crepuscule with the baby doesn't really make sense, as we'll find out later. After hearing the story, we hear a large screech, which is followed by, "What the fuck?" I think the developer just looked up raw chicken leg and stuck some eyes and teeth on it. It's still not appealing though. But am I the only one that thinks that they could destroy this thing? The teeth are built like a British person, and it has no limbs to do any real damage. Anyways, it's somehow fast, and Lizzie notices that it's about to charge at Rich. For some reason, I decide to chuck my fucking knife at this thing, thinking that Lizzie would have a good shot, and obviously because I thought I could pull it off. Uh-oh, it goes in Rich's fucking eye. Lizzie has such a bad shot that the creature standing 10 feet away from Rich and still managed to get it directly in his eye. The knife, of course, hits his brain, and well, he dies in the first first 2 minutes of the crepuscule. Then because Lizzie is freaking out, she also dies from the creature. Restarting, I decide maybe to yell at Rich is probably the safest play since I don't have any way to get close to Rich and Rich can dodge it. That doesn't matter though. To Rich, I yelled at the monster and he just stood there. He literally just let the creature impale him from the back of his chest because he was so confused. I played the rest of the game without Rich considering he's dead weight and it pissed me off. So instead of running to save Rich, I just ran to Pucks. Pucks, as a gentleman, told me to get behind him. He thought of an idea as for Lizzie to grab the attention of the monster, getting away from Pucks as he would sneak up behind it and knock it out. Lizzie would throw a rock down the hallway thinking it would get some attention off of Pucks, but to her, that didn't work. Instead, she just ran up beside it and stabbed it with a knife. Pucks tagging in and smacking it around with a bat like Super Smash Bros. The beast is dead. Rich stands there horrified about what just happened, and he essentially killed something even though that was a monster that was trying to kill them. It still feels alive, and he did it in a brutal way. Lizzie is realizing the reality of the situation. Rich is dead, and he's not coming back. The creatures in the tunnel are enjoying their suffering, eating away at every ounce of hope they have left. We hear sounds approaching deeper into the mine. Multiple are now coming to Pucks and Lizzie. Pucks grabs Lizzie's arm and they run deeper into the mine. If you choose the option where Rich doesn't end up dying, the same events play out without them sobbing about their friend's death, of course. But multiple monsters come and they run down a tunnel separate from the monster. Rich starts running ahead of them and guess what? Whoa! Falls down a fucking hole. You can choose the option to help save him, but it's already too late and the monsters are quickly approaching. You leave Rich hoping that he isn't dead and run with Pucks deeper into the mine. We are greeted back in the doctor's office, meeting our old friend that we haven't seen in a while, Red Lizzie.
Have you ever wanted to look through the eyes of others? Once there was a boy named Hector who dreamed of doing that. So he gouged out the eyes of his sister and tried to put them in his own head. It didn't work. All he saw was full dark after that. A shame, a shame. If you only tried the dog's eyes instead, those would have worked better. The messenger knows a better way, though. The messenger can share the brain signals, the memories. They are not yours, but I'll share them with you. Then you can see, just like Hector wished he could since birth.
We learned that Red Lizzie's name is actually called the Messenger. The Messenger says that they are able to share memories between humans, achieving what Hector wanted so badly. We are given the choice to see into the eyes of another. Pressing yes takes you back to the crepuscule, but following Rich. Yes, surprisingly, Rich is alive, only suffering a couple broken bones. Rich tries calling out to Pucks and Lizzie, but is met with no response. Time passes, and there is nothing that could prepare him for this. The burden of the crepuscule is getting to him. Seeing that the monsters show the reality of everything in life so far, even though it seems fictional, humans were understanding. They had wants and desires, so he was able to reason with them. Simply giving away his things or getting kicked in the balls, or apparently he was also abducted by the AC gang for interrogation. But dealing with a monster, something that isn't able to recognize the fact that he existed, hurt him. If he died by a human, there was some respect or understanding this person had died. Down here, his soul would be left here wandering around the cave forever. That would be it for Rich, the scared boy who only wanted to find friends and love along with a roof over his head, trying to find his hardest to be kind to everybody, even if they weren't kind to him. He was taught to become stronger than the pain, learn to be the immovable object just like what Mother taught him. That's all Rich ever wanted to do, bear the pain of the world so others can be happy. But was he wrong? Was this punishment? Did Rich do something wrong in the process to end up being picked by his hero and placed in the endless torment of mazes and monsters? Was he really a terrible person despite everything he's done? Or does Mother Matron simply not care? I guess he wasn't enough and wasn't capable of being the person Mother wanted him to be. Finding some resolve still in his heart, he decides to keep going, hoping to reunite with Lizzie and Pucks. He walks into an object, a door built into the cave wall. He didn't see the door at first when he was walking, because he must have been lost in some train of thought or just didn't notice it. Questioning if he should go through the door is weighing on his options, considering he might fall down another hole again and not knowing what could be through the door. To his surprise, it's a replica of a wooden cabin. Pots, pans, mugs, full bottles, and a bed sitting in the corner. Appearing in the corner room is a familiar face we saw back at the bunkhouses.
Calm thy nerves, boy. Calm thy nerves.
Who are you?
What's in a name? Everything, I suppose. Very well. You may call me Momus. What is your name, boy?
My name is Rich.
Rich, eh? Perhaps you can spare some coin.
Momus appears to be friendly. As a man living deep in the crepuscule, and our first encounter with him wasn't so received by Lizzie, Rich asks Momus why he lives down here.
Oh. Do you live here?
Live? No. I merely exist here. Living is a diseased state that consists of pain and an all-encompassing fear of death. And, if you're a mutant of nature, a desperate desire for meaning to be woven from chaos itself. The only things that can be born from chaos are tyrants and horrors incomprehensible. And my mother.
Momus is trying to comfort Rich, making him feel relaxed while he's in the depths of the crepuscule. Momus asks Rich if he wants something to eat. Over the fire is a brew stewing, full of vegetables and meats. Vegetables are hard to come by in the boarding. Rich continues to devour the soup.
It's good.
A curio, to be sure. A soul such as thine has not been here in a while. Let alone one of your patheticism.
What?
I'm saying you're pathetic. Are you deaf too? Brain like a mule? Will blubbering those big fat baby tears get you back home?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you.
Stop!
Sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. So sorry for being alive. I'll give you anything you want if you leave me alone. My pride, my dignity, everything in my wallet. Take my kidneys. Take it all. I'm worth absolutely nothing at all. I'd be worth more dead than I am alive.
No, stop! Stop using my face like that!
No, not mule brain. Dog brain. The weak one of the litter. The one that gets shoved away and pissed on while his brothers and sisters suckle mommy's tits. You felt terrified about being sent down here. Yet you were also so full of joy. Why is that? Could it be that? Even back home, in the place where you belong, no one loves you. No one cares about the weak little mutt. You were overjoyed at the idea. You thought it'd be like a story. That this would be the miraculous moment you'd make some friends for once. Am I right? But your friends are gone, aren't they? They watched you fall down into the dark and didn't even bother to try and save you. They left you to rot.
No, they'd never.
It reminds me of what people used to do back when I was a spry young one. Do you know what my people did with the weak puppies? We threw them away. Left them for carrion. Although, I think you're at least a grade higher than carrion food. Sister will want you. Sister is going to enjoy that delectable suffering inside you. Your eyes look scrumptious, though. I'll enjoy those. I'll dance them on my tongue like grapes and shred them between my teeth.
No! Get away from me!
Momus unfortunately kills Rich, eating his face, but leaving a part of him for his sister, meaning that there is someone higher than him who wants to eat humans based off their suffering. This will come back later, but this is also the worst outcome for Rich. Coming into a dream house, a place with food, and a proper bed, and someone who is nice to him. Rich, as he previously went on about, he was always treated like shit, giving everything to others, but wanted someone to be nice to him, and just wanted friends, then taking it all away from him, mocking him on his worst insecurities, then killing him, eating his face and saving the rest, treating him like he wasn't a real human being, which was his worst fear.
I think we can rest for a minute.
Back in the cave with Lizzie and Pucks, they reflect on the situation they just got out of. As we know, Rich is dead, but current Lizzie doesn't really see him as dead and doesn't bring up what happened to him. Lizzie asks if there's a flashlight. Pucks, reaching into his bag, takes out one saying, "I couldn't trust you Morns to prepare." Pucks and Lizzie both laugh, suddenly stopping to saying they're bad people for laughing after one of their friends just got murdered in front of them. Pucks tries to calm down Lizzie. They're in a terrible situation, but there's probably nothing left they could do. But for Lizzie to still be able to laugh means she is holding on pretty well. We see this sort of character development with Pucks, first coming off as an arrogant asshole, but when things get serious, he's able to comfort those who are scared. While walking down the cave, Lizzie brings up his friends they used to play baseball with. Pucks is defensive, bringing up how he doesn't want to talk about it. After an awkward silence, he says that his friends, Rocco and Wallace, were drafted as surveyors. They never specifically told him that they were picked, but he could tell. Every time they went in his house, they would look at him in the eyes when talking, but they weren't directly looking at him. They were focused on something 1,000 miles away. Wallace ended up coming back, but turned into a mumbler. Seeing him like that, Pucks is never able to forgive Mother Matron for having his friends go through that. Lizzie talks about how she used to look up to Mother Matron, blah 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 blah. Anyways, even though Pucks hates Mother Matron, he doesn't dislike how Lizzie is a fan of her because her influence on Lizzie is keeping her alive. And towards the end of the cave, there are 3 paths that seem to lead to the same place. A sign outside the path say, "Paradise is to be unborn," with the Mother Matron symbol written in blood. Against the sign laying near the edge of the water is a thick book, similarly to the other book we saw, with most of the pages worn down or torn out completely. The book is a guide assuming what to do when you reach the Womb of Paradise. It states, one must embark on the muting. The procedure can only be performed once, but is by far the most intense and reliable way to hear her words. You must procure several materials. The first and most obvious is a blade. The older, filthier, and rustier, the better. Please consult the weathering guide in the appendix if you only have access to a clean and well-maintained blade. The second is a source of heat, such as a box of matches, a lighter, or a stove. The third and final object is a piece of metal that may retain heat, but it cannot be your blade. It has to be a separate item entirely. A metal ruler, a metal bar, or perhaps even a fire poker will work. The book after this part is scrambled. Most of the words are not able to be read, but you can make out what it is trying to say. Once prepared, need assistance from a comrade, as resistive tendencies may also need to be retained so you don't harm whoever is assisting you. After being properly restrained, use one hand to stretch the tongue taut. A cloth or keep grip using the blade, sawing motion to do. Do not stop. Retreat will disappoint her immediately. To activate the Womb of Paradise, you need some sort of sacrifice to enter. Someone needs to retain the other person, either due to physical pain, or could even include mental pain. The sacrifice is for someone, since the text said, retreat will disappoint her immensely. This could also be the entity that created the crepuscule, and it could also be the sister Momos was talking about. Lizzie and Puck start walking in the water, suddenly jumped by dots with teeth. This part of the game is really annoying. Most actions just have you die, so I spent 15 minutes on the small fight on what actions lead to survival. The creature grabs onto Lizzie's leg, trying to push her into the water. Take your 2 hands and pry and open the creature's mouth, only to make it bite harder until she presses her muscles to her limits and the creature lets you go, retreating back into the water. Her leg is on fire with giant teeth marks on her ankle. You hear Puck scream in the distance that he was also jumped, and they also have his leg. The monster is biting down on his lower thigh. If Pucks ends up losing his leg in the crepuscule, he is basically dead. Lizzie tries pushing the creature down into the water via Puck's leg, and the creature lets go. I don't understand how this works because it is a creature that lives in the water, but either way we gotta figure out what path to take. The climbing one obviously doesn't work, and the middle one is too strong to push through quick enough, so the left option they were able to make it safely to the tunnel. The creatures aren't quick enough on land as they are in water, making this the only way out. Continuing down the corridor, we meet in an underground factory. Due to what has seemed possible for the crepuscule, it makes us wonder what exactly is this place. Firstly in mind, but after exploring the cave, a factory. Puck says there are a bunch of water purifiers, meaning it's a hydraulic plant. A big swarm of meat comes flying out behind the purifiers. Puck decides to have Lizzie split from him, taking half the swarm and meeting up at the end of the factory. Most end up following Pucks besides one standing in front of Lizzie. The creature is charging up at her, ready to ram itself into her. She ducks under the creature, and the creature's underlings end up touching her, which I don't know why the developer needed to clarify that. Lizzie makes a break to the stairwell while stabbing another one on the way. This also apparently breaks the game, but no, it's fine. Rushing to the door, cutting off the creature from Lizzie, she ends up meeting with Pucks, who already dealt with his pack. Lizzie rushes to grab a bar while Pucks defends the door from the rest of the monsters trying to break through. The bar will hold the the door, but not for long. At this point, Pucks and Lizzie are rethinking their mental status by wondering how much more they can take, along with the monster seemingly never ending and not knowing how far the womb of paradise is. Lizzie scans the room around them and finds a long noodle thing, which is an umbilical cord, and we get a flashback. We find Loretta back at the doctor's office giving birth. Pushing out the baby, covered in gross pregnant lady things, Loretta finds the baby to be the dearest, sweetest thing she's ever seen. A bewildering sensation of love that burns into her chest. It is so foreign to her, almost frightening. The doctor calls in the nurse, wearing a mask, and takes the baby from his hands, then leaving the room. Loretta is obviously confused by why the nurse is taking the baby, and a very tall man walks through the door. Apparently, he is important because he's been seen in newspapers, with the only time his eyes aren't pitch black is the flashing camera lights. Something is wrong with his skin, and there are red marks along his suit resembling blood. He's the overseer and proprietor of the Nexus for the Lost and Destitute, an organization in their world that Loretta and Sheena both went to clean up their drug habits. Let me translate. It's okay, Loretta. Your baby will be fine. He doesn't really talk, right? Assuming that he's human. He says they are borrowing Loretta's baby. Loretta hasn't been taking a mother's lesson seriously. If you'd read the scriptures as you were instructed, you'd know. With this information, we can connect that the organization he belongs to is the Wadey Foundation, and is in connection to Mother Matron. Loretta and Sheena weren't originally from the boarding, but moved here instructed by the Wadey Foundation. This timeline is a little weird considering she realized that she was pregnant inside the boarding, hence the same doctor's office, and was 3 months pregnant, but considering everything like moving to the boarding and joining the Wadey Foundation, it gets a little confusing. We have the timeline set as Loretta passes out in the party by Odang, then joining the Wadey Foundation and meeting Sheena, then finding out she was pregnant, talking about Sheena with the pregnancy, and having the baby. Although we don't know what the flashback was with Sheena when she was locked in the bathroom withdrawing from meth, which could have happened before joining the Wadey Foundation or after meeting Loretta and relapsing again. The man is not answering any of Loretta's questions about the baby, which is causing her to get upset. He responds with all the babies born in the boarding serve a grand purpose. A little side note, but the doctor's name is Wilson. Wilson apologizes for what he's about to do, and then the flashback ends.
What the? Let go of me!
I'm sorry, Loretta. Really.
I'm going to...
Pucks is smacking Lizzie's cheek trying to wake her up. While trying to explain what she just saw, a loud familiar buzzing is going around the room with Lizzie feeling sleepy. Momus appears from out of the floor and waves his hand in front of Lizzie, making her fall asleep. We're awakened back in the doctor's room with the messenger. She's just yapping about some random shit like, could you have changed the outcome? Even she doesn't know what she is talking about, but apparently we're entering the womb of paradise right now. Waking up, we're outside Mother Matron's door. Hearing the buzzing again, sound that we've heard earlier, which is the same as when we were called in through the telecom. The door unlocks, prompting us to enter. Walls are covered with flesh, with looks like an egg on the furthest wall. Gazing at the living architecture on the wall, in the far right we see Pucks without his eyes. He's breathing, but it's hard to say he's living. He jolts up trying to communicate with no tongue. A familiar voice appears behind Lizzie, something so dreadful that ignorance of it seems paradise.
My dear child, you finally arrived.
Turning around, her eyes saw it for the first time. The reality of the boarding. Mother Matron. The clues given to us throughout the playthrough make it somewhat obvious, but experience it a second time you realize how much more it was obvious. Most of this conversation with Mother Matron is really descriptive and unnecessary. I'm gonna give you the rundown. For us it was obvious, but for Lizzie it was terrifying. Someone who she looked up since she was a child, written letters to, and those letters were written back. It is the monster that has set up everything for her to be a victim. Mother Matron describes herself as fear itself. She is Nyx, the goddess who gave birth to all the horrible monsters. Mother of all the creatures in the crepuscule. The purpose of entering the crepuscule is to have them experience true fear, and for her to consume them with that fear built up inside of them. She thinks of everyone in the boarding as a meal, cooking them slowly with fear so they can taste better. Turning them into babies when they were born, humans faced with undescribable fear rely on instincts.
Your mother saw something in you back then, you know. When you were first born, Her eyes glowed like starlight at the thought of you. She was ready to die for your sake.
Lizzie had never thought of her mother until this moment. Her entire life she was spent alone without the thought of parents being a reality. Lizzie's mother ended up dying for Lizzie's sake. She starts describing the ways that she killed her mother. This part's way too long! She was thrown on the ground, peeling off her skin layer by layer, picking apart at her body, making the suffering last as long as possible, then mashing her into a ball of meat and flinging her across the room. Pretty sure she was alive that entire time. Lizzie, out of all the children in the boarding, smells the best due to her past with her mother. Mother Matron doesn't waste any more time and ends up eating her.
Forgive me, child, but I cannot contain my appetite any longer. I must feast.
Yet the story is still not done. Usually eating someone makes them dead, but there's still more. An undescribable amount of time has passed. She doesn't know if she's living or not, and what's reality. We cut into a visual shown in the title screen. That is the womb of paradise, and is located in Mother Matron's stomach. We are in a new world. The only light shown is through the membrane from the outside. Lizzie feels like a spectator, separate from her body, bearing the witness to a different person in a different place, suffering a horrible fate. A face slowly descends down from the fleshy ceiling. A marble statue with a human mouth stained with blood. I believe it as it is not hinted, but this is Mother Matron's true form. The womb of paradise was something she swallowed long ago, meaning that it should have been accessed through the outside world, but destroyed by placing on her stomach. No matter the fate of Lizzie, how many times she has repeated this journey, it's her fate to be eaten by Mother Matron, as she has built that from the very beginning. She describes the womb of paradise as a special place that can birth new worlds and destroy old ones. She is able to create a world where she never existed and everything will be forgotten. Existing is only meant for the suffering eternally, for Lizzie to be swallowed by Mother Matron. Her efforts to fight back are useless, facing a god of misery that engineered her entire world to be eaten. Would it be better to simply stop existing? Mother Matron gives Lizzie two options to choose from. Be embraced, live with misery for eternity, or be erased, make it so that you never existed. Be embraced.
Welcome, my dear. Welcome home. Mother's been waiting for you. Let us embrace delectable misery together for eternity.
Awoken back in the doctor's office. This is where the memories of our journey end. If you have forgotten, we were experiencing the story through Lizzie's memories, not in the current day. We are taken back to the doctor's office once again. The wall slowly turned into flesh, revealing it is the womb of paradise all along. Lizzie is trapped in the womb of paradise, replaying her memories again and again, embracing misery.
No, it's not just a room. It's a womb. The womb where I was born. Or maybe just one that feels similar. Were the memories elucidating? Did they give me all the puzzle pieces that mattered? Maybe you figured something out that I can't. Not like you can tell me, I suppose. Would understanding it all really bring me peace anyways? Maybe. It wouldn't change the reality, though. The reality that from the moment I was born, I was in the clutches of a monstrosity that desired nothing more than to see me suffer. Me, and many others just like me, just as innocent and sad, under the talons of a god that wants to bleed us dry and melt our brains with suffering. All my existence is, and ever could be, is an endless torrent of pain and misery. The positive moments were simply reprieves. I could fight all I want, but in the end, what am I? A tunnel rat running for its life through a maze with no exit. An ant under the boot of a god. Knowing that now, would I have rather never existed at all? No. No, I'm happy I existed. Maybe happy isn't the right word. Content? Maybe that's more accurate. Being alive is, at least to me, about two things. Avoiding death and avoiding misery. And yet, they always come. I reach my hand to my eyes. They are gone. And yet, I still see. All living things will die. And their happiness cannot be appreciated without a contrast of sadness to give it value. The future might seem like nothing but a dark cloud on the horizon. But you have to keep trying. If I had never existed, I wouldn't have met my friends. Janine and Katie, Rich, even Pucks. I wouldn't have gotten to eat food that was so delicious I wanted to cry. I wouldn't have gotten to feel proud learning to sew and making my sweater. I wouldn't have gotten to read those books that touched my heart or made me feel like going on a magical adventure. So many little things that seem small and meaningless on a grand scale, but to me were everything. I chased the hope that I would find more moments and experiences like that. And even in this womb of pain, where happiness dies, where a meat tube is attached to the base of my neck, sucking at the fluids, where my body grows heavy like stone, being drained of everything that made Lizzie. Maybe here, there's still something. Maybe there's a beyond that's wonderful and incomprehensible, but reserved for those who take on the burden of existence. Or maybe the Mother Matron was right, and it's just delectable misery forever. No choice but to try and enjoy it.
Be erased. Mother Matron sits in long silence, then laughs. Lizzie's experience with this one is a complete opposite to the counterpart. The speech starts off the same, but she questions herself halfway through, turning it into a speech about how life is suffering and paradise is not existing at all.
No, it's not just a room. It's a womb. The womb where I was born. Or maybe just one that feels similar. Were the memories elucidating? Did they give me all the puzzle pieces that mattered? Maybe you figured out something that I can't? Not like you can tell me, I suppose. Would understanding it all really bring me peace anyways? Maybe. It wouldn't change the reality, though. The reality that from the moment I was born, I was in the clutches of a monstrosity that desired nothing more than to see me suffer. Me, and many others just like me. Just as innocent and sad. Under the talons of a god that wants to bleed us dry and melt our brains with suffering. All my existence is, and could ever be, is an endless torrent of pain and misery. The positive moments were simply reprieves. I could fight all I want, but in the end, what am I? A tunnel rat running for its life through a maze with no exit. An ant under the boot of a god. Knowing that now, would I have rather never existed at all? Yeah, I think I would have rathered that. Being alive is, at least to me, about two things. Avoiding death and avoiding misery. And yet, they always come. I reach my hand to my eyes. They're gone. And yet I still see. All living things will die. And happiness cannot be appreciated without a contrast of sadness to give it value. It's a sick joke. Existence is supposed to be a gift. But it's not a gift. It's a burden. A guarantee that you will one day experience the worst things you'll ever experience. And that you'll die.
Whoever built things that way is a sick monster that wants to watch its ponds bleed and scream until the rivers run red. Nothing was just fine until it was infected with the disease of becoming something. That's the truth of it all. And I see that now. Existence is simply pain. Paradise? Paradise is to be unborn. It starts at the fingertips and the toes. The sensation of normality gives way to a numbness. Pins and needles stitching their way up my skin. The feeling of falling asleep on my arms or legs, but slowly forming everywhere at once. And then fire. The numbness gives way to the feeling of flame cleansing the flesh. Individual nerves being shredded from a microscopic level. All that I ever was, and all that I am now, being ripped from the fabric of reality. Painfully, excruciatingly. I try to scream, but there's no sound. My vocal cords are gone, and so is my throat. Darkness tickles at the edges. My world dies around me. And then... nothing. Forever.
In a time and place, far in the past, a woman with dark hair, wearing a hospital gown, stands in the nursery room. Covered in blood, tired, and worn. She's lost so much to be in this moment.
Shh. Mommy's here, sweetheart. Mommy's here. I figured out what your name's going to be. Finally. Lizzie. That's your name. Lizzie.
Loretta is Lizzie's mother. Loretta gives us a closing with her coming to the Wadey Foundation was due to her mother wanting her to get better, but was gonna bail in a week. But she wanted to stop. She knew it was bad for her, but she wanted to feel something. The news about Lizzie made her realize the reality of her actions.
I am so sorry for everything. I've really let you down. Ruined everything for you. For me. I didn't really realize what I was doing until it was too late. I just needed to feel good, to feel something. At first, I thought I came here just to make Mom happy, stay for a week or two and bail, tell her it didn't help so she'd stay off my back. But no. I think a part of me really did want to stop. I knew I had to. Even with the cravings and the withdrawal. And then they told me about you. And the decision was final. For your sake, or for mine, I'm not sure which. I was gonna stop. I was gonna get off the stuff and fix my life. But I guess my chance for that is long since past. This place, those people, that slimy Mr. Wadey. It's not really for us to get better. It's for all of us to get worse. To wallow in the pain. To never stop hurting. Never stop bleeding. Suffering for the sake of suffering. I came here to get better. They told me that's what it was for. But it was to make me worse. All of us worse. That's all life really is, isn't it? Long stretches of misery, spending all our efforts trying to escape it, distract ourselves from it. But it's misery all the way down. I say that, and yet, looking at you makes that feel untrue. Maybe what I needed was a reason to care. Something or someone to care for. Misery be damned. I'm not done trying. You're in danger, and I'm getting you out of here. You're going home, Lizzie, with Mommy.
According to the game developer, here's his app by the way, for Mother Matron is not done. The developer actually tweeted that there will be a free DLC that expands the story and adds new gameplay. Hopefully it does get finished and polished because my god, did it have some bugs. Not to mention, I hope that the Crepuscule is somewhat redone. For it being the main climax of the game, there is a lot to be left desired. It also felt pretty rushed just to get to the final act, so if I seemed like I was rushing it, it was just the game. But the final speeches from Lizzie were a really nice way to end it. I don't believe much more needs to be added to her story. Where her story was by far the best part of the game, it was really well written with actual character growth. The only person to really have any was Pucks, and I guess Lizzie at the end. Sheena's story is also left on a cliffhanger. As for what happened to her in the bathroom, we don't know. The entire world building of this game also gets thrown out the window halfway through, which kinda sucks, but it was never really the main focus of the game. We also don't get much context on what happened before the originals, if they were even a thing. My best guess is that they were a part of the Waiting Foundation, and their jobs were just to clean up, and they switched the narrative because the Waiting Foundation was never something that was really brought up besides the flashbacks and that flyer. Some other things like why there were certain objects connected to Loretta's past were not discussed, so hopefully that is also expanded on. As for this video, I've been a lazy fuck for writing the scripts. I don't really got much left to say. The next game I should be covering is Baroque, and the style is a little more different than this one in my previous video on Milk Inside a Bag. So if you're interested in this video, go check that one out. All I have left to say is thank you for watching.